He slid the document across the polished marble island. His smile perfectly crafted. Perfectly false. Liam said it was just insurance paperwork. He said it was a formality from the accident that had stolen my memories. This was his scheme. He was my boyfriend. My caretaker. The man who told me who I was every morning. And he needed me. The woman he called Jane. To sign. He expected me to be grateful. He expected me to be vacant. He expected me to trust him. To sign the paper without a second thought. Just like the obedient, broken thing he was turning me into. He did not panic. I did not reach for the pen. I simply watched his eyes. I watched the tiny flicker of impatience in them as I hesitated. He had made a fatal miscalculation. He believed he was shearing a lamb. But he had just awakened the wolf. He thought I was his patient. His victim. He had no idea I was his executioner. If you want to see how a woman who has lost her memory takes down the man who tried to steal her life, follow along. You will not want to miss what happens when he realizes who I really am. Liam's voice was smooth, like honey poured over glass. He told me it was just to help with the hospital bills. He said it would let him manage my affairs while I recovered. He called me honey. He smiled. He told me I did not need to worry my pretty, confused head about it. This was the lie. This was the performance. I felt the coldness of his words. Even if my mind could not find the reason, I remembered the hospital. I remembered the white lights and the terror of a blank mind. He had been there. He had held my hand. He had promised to protect me. He had promised to keep me safe until Evelyn came back. But now I understood. He was not protecting Evelyn. He was burying her. He used my amnesia, my vulnerability, as his greatest weapon. He told me I was weak. He told me I was fragile. He told me I needed him to survive. He said these things while he was planning to steal my company. He was using the very tragedy that broke me to build his own fortune. He was not my savior. He was a vulture, picking at the carcass of my old life. And I, the woman he called Jane, had been his willing captive. But that time was over. He pushed the pen closer. He told me to just sign. He said it was simple. He pointed to the line at the bottom. But I did not look at the line. I looked at him. I looked at the man who had fed me, clothed me, and lied to me every single day for 6 months. I thought of all the small moments. The moments he flinched when I asked about my work. The moments he quickly changed the subject when I mentioned the lab. He told me my past was too stressful. He said the old Evelyn was a workaholic, a cold and difficult woman. He said Jane was so much softer. He said Jane was so much better. He was erasing my identity. He was dismissing my entire life's work. My genius. My soul. He called it a burden. And he did this while he was actively trying to sell that very work. My project Chimera. For billions. He was selling my mind. And he told me I was lucky to have him. The raw, staggering arrogance of it chilled me. He did not see me. He saw a tool. He saw a signature. He saw a blank slate he could write his own future on. I picked up the pen. I looked at the dotted line. Liam's smile widened. He had won. He leaned back. Confident. I moved the pen toward the paper. And my hand stopped. It did not just stop. It began to tremble. It was a violent, painful tremor. A rebellion from my own muscles. I tried to force it. But my fingers refused to close around the pen. I did not understand. But my body did. My body remembered what my mind could not. It refused to sign the wrong name. It refused to let Jane kill Evelyn. Liam's smile vanished. The mask of the caring boyfriend evaporated. Jane. Sign the paper. He commanded. His voice was no longer honey. It was steel. I looked up. My hand still shaking. I told him I could not. I told him my hand would not move. Impatience twisted his handsome features into something ugly. He lunged forward. He did not ask. He did not soothe. He grabbed my wrist. He jammed the pen into my fingers. He forced my hand down onto the paper. He scribbled a useless, jagged line. See, he snarled, throwing my hand back. Easy. He snatched the document, his eyes gleaming with victory. He thought he had secured his power. He did not realize he had just signed his own death warrant. He had shown me the monster, and my memory was beginning to stir. Liam did not wait. He was a shark that had tasted blood. And the signature, that jagged, forced scribble, was all he needed. The very next morning, he called an emergency board meeting. He strode into my penthouse bedroom, his face a perfect mask of concern. He told me I had a visitor. He said it was just a formality. He needed me to sit quietly for a video call. He expected me to be the vacant, pliable doll he had created. He needed the board to see Jane, the invalid, not Dr. Evelyn Reed, the CEO. I remembered Dr. Eris. The name surfaced in my mind like a smooth stone from a murky pond. He was my mentor. He was the one who taught me to question everything. I remembered sitting with him in a university library. Years ago, he told me that a patent was a fortress, but a bylaw was a key. He said to never give anyone the power to lock you out of your own creation. I had spent weeks, sleepless weeks, drafting the corporate bylaws for Biosyn. I had pored over every word, creating traps and defenses. I had done it to protect my research, my legacy. Now, Liam was using that legacy against me. He was parading me in front of my own board. He was using my own company to destroy me. He was leveraging the very success I had built to paint me as incompetent. He told me to just smile. He told me to look pleasant. He said it would all be over soon. He did not know how right he was. He thought he was staging a coronation. He was, in fact, walking directly into the guillotine I had built years ago. The video call flickered to life. I saw the faces of my board members. They were men and women I did not remember. But they looked at me with a sickening mixture of pity and discomfort. Liam began to speak. His voice was somber. He spoke of my tragic incapacity. He spoke of my brave but failing struggle. He held up the power of attorney one had signed the day before. He presented it as a sign of my trust in him. He said I had given him my blessing to guide the company through this difficult time. I thought about trust. I remembered the night I really gave him my trust. It was 3 years ago. My project Chimera, the neural regeneration formula, had its first major breakthrough. I was terrified. The implications were staggering. I told Liam I was afraid of what this power could do. He held me. He told me he would be my anchor. He said he would handle the business, the money, the greed. He said I could just focus on the science. He said he would protect me from the world. What a fool I had been. He was not protecting me from the world. He was protecting the world from me. He was isolating me. He was building a cage around me. Bar by bar, he used my own focus, my own dedication to the work, as his primary weapon. He encouraged my sleepless nights in the lab. He praised my single-minded genius. He did it all so he could take control of the boardroom. He built his kingdom in my shadow. And now, he was using my incapacity as his final, crowning achievement. The irony was suffocating. He was selling the very project I had trusted him to protect. Liam continued his speech. He announced that Biosyn's greatest rival, a corporate behemoth called Syngene, had made an offer. He said it was a generous offer. A lifeline given my current condition. He said that with me. The company's brain. Offline. This was the only responsible path forward. He was painting me as a liability. I was no longer the asset. I was the anchor dragging us all down. He asked for an immediate vote to authorize him to finalize the sale. The board was silent. They looked at my blank face on the screen. They saw what he wanted them to see. A broken woman. Avec un shell. They were ready to agree. They were ready to give him my company. And then, a single voice cut through the silence. This meeting is a farce. It was Dr. Devon. Eris. He looked directly into the camera, his eyes bypassing Liam entirely. Looking for me. Liam, you are the COO. You seem to have forgotten the bylaws of this company. The bylaws that Dr. Playston, Reed herself wrote. Liam's plastic smile tightened. He tried to interrupt. He said that the POA superseded the bylaws. Doctor, Eris laughed. It was not a pleasant sound. Article 7. Section 4. Eris snapped. No discussion. Vote. Or negotiation regarding the sale or dissolution of Project Chimera or its holding assets can be conducted without the active verbal and physical presence of the CEO and founder. Dr. Evelyn Reed. He paused, letting the words hang in the air. A power of attorney is irrelevant. You cannot sell her life's work just because you got her to sign a piece of paper. Liam's face went pale. He had not anticipated this. He had not read the fine print. He had been so focused on me, the weak woman, that he had forgotten about the strong defenses I had built into the company's DNA. It sputtered. He said this was an emergency. He said the board could vote to override. Eris shook his head. Not without cause. And her incapacity has not been legally established by this board. You have no right. The victory was sharp. And it was total. Liam was trapped. He was publicly humiliated by the very rules he had been too arrogant to read. He could not proceed. The board members, sensing his weakness, began to murmur their agreement with Eris. The tide had turned in an instant. Liam, seething, was forced to agree. Fine, he hissed. We will table the discussion. For now, he slammed the laptop shut. The screen going black. He turned to me. The mask was gone. His face was pure rage. He thought he had lost. I knew he had just given me my first weapon. He had shown me my ally. And I knew, with a cold, rising certainty, that Dr. won. Eris was only the first key. Liam's rage was a suffocating, silent thing. He did not yell. He did not throw things. He simply vibrated with a cold fury. He had been challenged. He had been made to look foolish in front of the board. His entire plan, his perfect, simple plan, had been derailed by a single, dusty bylaw. He looked at me, his eyes dead. He said we were going out. He said we had an appointment. He told me to put on a nice dress. He was smiling again. But the smile did not reach his eyes. He needed to prove my incapacity. He needed an expert witness. And he was going to drag me to the one place that would be the ultimate humiliation. I remembered Dr. Rowe. Croft. He was the head of research at Syngene. Our biggest competitor. He was brilliant, arrogant, and ruthless. We were not friends. We were rivals in the purest sense. We had clashed at conferences. We had competed for the same grants. We had respected each other's minds, even as we tried to beat each other. I remembered a dinner in Berlin. We had argued for 3 hours over synaptic modeling. He called my theories elegant but impractical. I called his brute force. It was the highest form of respect. Now, Liam was dragging me to him. He was taking me to Syngene's primary lab. Not as a peer. Not as a CEO. But as a specimen. He was parading me in front of my greatest rival to be evaluated. Like a lab rat in a cage. The sacrifice was not my company. It was my dignity. It was my entire professional life. He was using my blank mind to retroactively prove that I had never been Croft's equal. He was invalidating every achievement. Every late night. Every single breakthrough. He was turning my legacy into a pity party. And I could do nothing but let him lead me into the lion's den. The Syngene lab was bright white and sterile. Dr. Croft was waiting for us. He did not look triumphant. He looked clinical. He nodded at Liam. Then his eyes settled on me. He said my name. Evelyn. He was testing me. I just stared back. My mind a smooth, empty surface. She prefers Jane now. Liam said, his hand resting on my shoulder in a grotesque parody of care. She finds her old life stressful. Croft's eyes narrowed. Just slightly. He did not understand. But he did not challenge it. He was a scientist, here to observe a variable. Liam explained the situation. He said the board was concerned. He said Dr. Eris was obstructing progress. He said they needed an unbiased, third-party opinion on my cognitive state. He was asking my rival to declare me incompetent, so he could sell my life's work to that very rival. The audacity of it was breathtaking. He was making Croft an accomplice in his own victory. He was leveraging Croft's own desire to acquire my research against me. He thought he was playing chess. He had no idea what game I was about to start. Croft led us to a conference room. On a massive, wall-mounted screen was a complex data set. My data. Project Chimera. My formula. Croft looked at me. His expression, unreadable. Does this mean anything to you? Evelyn, he asked. His voice was soft. I looked at the cascading lines of code. The intricate protein models. It was like looking at a language I had once known but could no longer read. It meant nothing. I felt a wave of nausea. Of profound, hollow loss. This was my mind. This was my soul. And it was gone. Liam smiled. This was the moment he wanted. This was his proof. He expected me to cry. He expected me to shrink. To look away. To prove I was just a vacant shell. See, he said softly to Croft. It's all gone. A tragedy. But I did not look away. I kept staring at the screen. The language was foreign. But the math was not. I saw a sequence in the protein folding model. I saw a flaw. It was small. It was elegant. It was wrong. I did not remember the correct sequence. I did not remember writing it. But I felt it. It was an itch under my skin. It was a note of music. Horribly out of tune. My hand moved. It was not my decision. It was an instinct. A muscle memory from a life I could not access. I picked up a whiteboard marker from the table. Liam started to say my name. Jane. What are you doing? But I ignored him. I walked past him. I walked directly to the massive screen. Doctor. Croft watched me. His eyes sharp. I reached up. My hand was steady. I did not tremble this time. I drew a single, clean line through one of the equations. And then, beside it, I wrote the correction. A short, simple, perfect string of code. I did not know what it meant. I just knew it was right. I stepped back. The room was utterly silent. I heard a sharp intake of breath. It came from Dr. Croft. He was staring at the screen. His face pale. He looked from the screen to me and back to the screen. He whispered, "May God, we've been working on that stabilization problem for 3 months." He looked at Liam. His clinical pity gone, replaced by something else. Awe and suspicion. Liam, not being a scientist, just looked confused. What did she do? She's just scribbling." Croft shook his head. "She's not scribbling," he said, his voice tight. "She just solved our biggest problem. She just saved us 6 months of research." The blood drained from Liam's face. This was not the plan. This was the opposite of the plan. He had brought me here to be declared a simpleton. And I had just proven I was still a genius. He saw the look in Croft's eyes. He saw the control slipping through his fingers. He lunged forward and grabbed my arm. "The evaluation is over." He snarled. "She's tired. We're leaving." He dragged me out of the room, leaving Dr. Rice, Croft standing alone, staring at the corrected formula, his mind racing. Liam was terrified, and he should be. He had not just shown my ally. He had just shown my enemy that I was still alive. Liam did not speak on the car ride home. The silence was heavy. Violent. He had dragged me from the SynGen lab, his fingers leaving bruises on my arm. His plan had exploded. The imbecile had performed a miracle. He was terrified. I could smell the panic on him. He burst into the penthouse, dragging me behind him. And she was waiting. A woman was standing by the window. She was tall, impeccably dressed in a severe gray suit, and held a leather briefcase. She looked at me with open contempt. Liam introduced her as Bianca. He said she was the company lawyer. He said she was a friend. He said she was here to help. I did not know this woman, but my body knew her. My shoulders tensed. My stomach tightened. It was the same instinctive rejection I felt for Liam. Bianca smiled, but her eyes were like chips of ice. She opened her briefcase. She said she had heard about the unfortunate incident at Sinjen. Liam, his voice tight. Cut her off. He said, Doctor. Croft had overstepped. He said I was confused and vulnerable. He said they needed to protect me. Bianca slid a sheaf of papers onto the table. It was a preliminary sales agreement. Liam said, Evelyn, we need this. Sign it. It is just a formality. He was gasping for air. Desperate. He needed this signature. He needed to erase the genius I had just shown. He needed to re-establish me as the patient. I looked at the paper. I did not understand the legal text, but I remembered a feeling. I remembered. Or perhaps, I felt. The entire reason I built my company. I remembered building Biosyn not for money. I built it to heal. I remembered a violent argument with Liam. Years ago, he had wanted to fire our head of logistics, a good man named Marcus, because his efficiency had dropped. I investigated. I found out Marcus's wife was sick, dying. I refused to fire him. I told Liam that people were not just numbers on a spreadsheet. I told him the company would cover the medical bills. I told him that was the point of success. Liam had laughed at me. He called me a sentimentalist. He said I was running a charity, not a billion-dollar enterprise. He warned me that my soft heart and my human-first ethos would be the end of us. He said I was naive, but I had stood firm. I had protected my employee. And now, Liam was sitting across from me, allied with this cold, reptilian woman, trying to sell my human-first company to the most ruthless, profit-driven shark in the industry. Sinjen. He was proving that his heart was not just hard, it was non-existent. He was destroying the very soul of what I had built, all while claiming to protect me. I looked at Bianca. Her perfume was expensive, sharp, and sickeningly sweet. I recognized it. My mind flashed. It was not a memory. It was a fragment. That scent. In my home, I remembered finding a silk scarf, one that was not mine, tucked into the cushions of the guest room sofa. It was 6 months before the accident. I had asked Liam about it. He told me it belonged to a client, a real estate agent. He said I was being paranoid. He said I was stressed from the lab. He had gaslit me, made me feel crazy for my own observations. He had not just lied. He had made me doubt my own sanity. He used my dedication to my work as a shield for his affair. While I was in the lab, isolating gene sequences for Project Chimera, he was in my home, with her, while I was sacrificing my sleep, my health, my entire focus to build our future. He was using our home to entertain his mistress. And now, that same mistress, Bianca, was here. She was not just a lawyer. She was the other woman. And she was here to help him steal the very company I had built while he was betraying me. The two of them were a matched set of vipers. Liam pushed the pen toward me. Evelyn. Sign it. We have to do this. For your protection. His voice was pleading now. He was trying to sound like the caring boyfriend again. He expected me to be rattled by the lab visit. He expected me to be scared. He expected me to seek comfort in his strength. He expected me to sign the paper. To be the obedient Jane he needed me to be. I picked up the pen. I held it over the paper. Liam and Bianca both leaned in, their hunger almost visible. I looked at Bianca's icy eyes. I looked at Liam's desperate, false smile. And I felt it. The leverage, It was not a memory. It was a physical revulsion. It was the human-first ethos I had built my life on, screaming at me that these people were wrong. This feeling was cold. And it was certain. I put the pen down. I slid it very carefully back across the marble table. No. It was one word. It was quiet. It was absolute. Liam froze. Bianca's smile twitched. What? Liam asked. His voice suddenly sharp. What did you say? I looked at him. I was not Jane. I was not Evelyn. I was something else. Something cold and new. I said no. I repeated. It just feels wrong. Liam exploded. He slammed his fist on the table, rattling the pen. What do you mean? It feels wrong. It is a piece of paper. You do not even know what you are feeling. You are sick. Bianca stood up. That her face a mask of fury. You are incompetent. We are trying to save you. Their composure was shattered. The caring boyfriend and the helpful lawyer were gone. In their place were two raging, cornered animals. They had been stunned. They had been defied by the one person they thought they controlled completely. And in that moment, I knew I had all the power. Liam's face was no longer human. His rage was primal. My no had broken the spell. He was no longer the caretaker. He was the animal he had always been underneath. He lunged across the table. He did not grab the papers. He grabbed me. He hauled me out of the chair by my arm, his fingers biting into my skin. Bianca, the lawyer, the mistress, did not move. She simply watched with cold, satisfied eyes. He dragged me out of the main room, down the marble hallway of my penthouse. I remembered this penthouse. He had always loved it. He called it our fortress, a symbol of our arrival. He loved the view. He loved the address. He loved what it meant. But I remembered the truth. I remembered I had paid for it. It was purchased with the first major advance from the Project Chimera patent. It was my money, my work, my success. He had contributed nothing but his presence. He had been a passenger in my life, enjoying the view from the window I had built. He was using my own success against me. He was leveraging the very fortress I had funded to hold me prisoner. He had mocked me when I designed the security system. I had coded it myself, linking every door, every window, every light to a central hub. I called it Helios. He had called it paranoid. He said I was excessive. He said, "Who do you think you are?" Evelyn A. Spy. He laughed. He thought my obsessive attention to detail was a flaw. He had no idea it was my salvation. Now, he was using my paranoid creation to lock me inside my own home. He shoved me into the master bedroom. It was a massive room, lined with floor-to-ceiling windows. He threw me onto the floor. I looked up at him, my mind scrambling. The Jane persona terrified. He snatched my phone from my pocket. He sneered. No more calls to Eris. No more little field trips. He backed out of the room. The heavy, soundproof door slammed shut. I heard the solid, definitive click of the lock. I was trapped. I scrambled to the door, my hands beating against the solid wood. It did not budge. I was alone, and he knew what that did to me. I remembered the hospital. I remembered the panic attacks. The amnesia had left me terrified of being alone, lost in the blank, white fog of my own mind. He had been there. He had held my hand. He had sworn to me, "I will be your memory. Evelyn, just lean on me. I will never leave you." He was not just leaving me. He was manufacturing the exact terror he had sworn to protect me from. He was using my diagnosed psychological vulnerability as a weapon of coercion. He needed me to break. He needed me to be so terrified of the silence that I would sign anything, just to have my caretaker back. My heart hammered against my ribs. The walls felt like they were closing in. I could not breathe. Then I heard another sound, a low hiss, a heavy, metallic thud. I spun around, outside the massive windows. Steel security shutters were sliding down. They were the hurricane shutters I had insisted on. The ones Liam said were a waste of money. He was sealing me in. The light vanished. The room was plunged into near-total darkness. He had turned my beautiful sanctuary, my tower in the sky, into a tomb. He was blocking out the world, hoping my mind would follow. I heard his voice, muffled through the heavy door. "You are sick. Evelyn, you are a danger to yourself." He shouted that I would stay in there until I was better. He yelled that I would stay until I was reasonable. This was his final move. He expected me to collapse. He expected me to curl up on the floor and weep, broken and defeated. He expected Jane to scream for him. The panic was rising. A cold bile in my throat. I was shaking in the dark. And then, a third sound cut through the silence. It was not Liam. It was a small, calm, digitized voice. It came from a hidden speaker in the ceiling. "Welcome home, Dr. Reed." My breath hitched. I froze. The voice continued. It was perfectly level, perfectly calm. "Security protocol Ironclad has been initiated. This protocol was activated by a non-primary user, Liam." I stared into the darkness. A small, green light on the wall keypad. One I had never noticed. Flickered to life. The calm voice of my own creation. My Helios spoke again. "There appears to be a conflict in user commands. Would you like to override?" Liam was on the other side of that door, breathing heavily, believing he had finally, completely, won. He thought he had caged the animal. He had no idea he had just locked me inside the control room. My panic was a living thing, clawing at my throat. I was in the dark. I was trapped. Liam's footsteps faded down the hall. He had left me to rot in my own tomb. "Would you like to override?" The AI's voice. My voice was a pinprick of light in the suffocating blackness. I did not know how. I did not know what to say. "Helios," I whispered. The name felt strange. "Helios. I need to see." "See what?" "Dr. Reed. Liam," I said, my voice gaining strength. "Show me Liam." The wall-mounted television, a device I had forgotten was even in the room, flickered to life. It was not a broadcast. It was a feed. I saw the boardroom. I saw the faces of my board members, pixelated on a Zoom call, and I saw Liam, sitting at the head of my conference table. He was in my chair. He looked calm. He looked concerned. He was a masterful actor. He had left me in a dark, locked room, and then walked calmly to a meeting to finalize my corporate execution. I remembered the bylaws. I remembered the nights I spent drafting them. Liam had been furious. He said I was wasting time. He said I was obsessed with details instead of vision. He wanted a simple lawfress, 5-page document that gave him power. I had refused. I had spent 3 weeks with Dr. Eris and a team of lawyers, building a fortress of words. I had built it to protect my research from corporate raiders. I never imagined I was building it to protect myself from him. He had laughed at me. He had mocked my paranoia. He told me, "Evelyn, you need to trust people more." He said this while he was planning the most intimate, devastating betrayal. He dismissed my intelligence, my foresight. As a character flaw, he encouraged me to stay in the lab, to be the creative genius. While he handled the boring paperwork, he had counted on me being too busy, too focused, to read the very defenses I had created. And now, he was counting on my broken mind to forget them. On the screen, Liam began to speak. His voice was a smooth, somber performance. He told the board about the incident at Singen. He painted a picture of my public episode. He described my refusal to sign the preliminary papers. He presented it all as proof of my tragic, irreversible decline. He said, "As my fiancé and caretaker, It was his painful duty to protect the company. He said he needed to protect it from me. The board members looked devastated. I saw their faces. Men and women I did not know, but whose livelihoods depended on my mind. They looked at Liam with gratitude. They saw him as a savior. The strong man making the hard choice. He was using their pity for me as his shield. He was leveraging their respect for Dr. Reed to destroy Jane. He called for the final vote. He asked them to formally remove me as CEO and to authorize the immediate emergency sale of Biosyn to Dr. Croft and Sinjen. He had them. He was going to win. I watched, helpless. From my prison, my heart hammered. He was going to steal my company, my work, my entire life. While I watched it happen on a television screen, the board members began to raise their hands. One by one. Yes. Yes. I must interrupt. The voice was sharp, clear, and full of authority. It was Dr. Eris. Liam's practiced smile tightened. Dr. Eris. This is a difficult but necessary formality. Eris cut him off. It is not. Eris snapped, his eyes burning through the camera. This entire vote is invalid. I invoke Article 9. Section 2 of the corporate bylaws. The bylaws you all ratified. Liam looked confused. He was the big picture man. He did not bother with details. Article 9, he asked, his voice dripping with condescension. I am sure the board can vote to waive. You cannot waive it, Aris said, his voice like iron. Article 9. Section 2. Final ratification of any corporate sale, dissolution, or transfer of the Project Chimera patent requires a full, in-person quorum, not a video call, not a proxy. In person. You are attempting to illegally sell this company. Mr. Liam. The air went out of the room. Liam's face, which had been so full of false compassion, turned a blotchy, ugly red. He sputtered. This is an emergency. We have a CEO who is medically incapacitated. Doctor. Eris smiled. It was a cold, thin smile. And yet, you have provided no legal or medical proof of that incapacity to this board. All we have is your word. You cannot, Mr. Liam, declare the CEO incompetent in one breath, and then in the next, assume she consents to waiving the very bylaws she wrote to protect herself. You cannot have it both ways. It was checkmate. It was a perfect, elegant trap I had set for a faceless enemy. And my worst enemy had just walked right into it. Liam was trapped by his own arrogance. He was undone by the very details he had been too lazy, too dismissive to ever read. The board members, seeing his fury, quickly lowered their hands. Their expressions changed from pity to sharp suspicion. Liam. So his voice was a low growl. He was forced to concede. This meeting is postponed. He hissed. We will convene. In person. 1 week from today. Be prepared to vote. He slammed his laptop shut. The screen in my room went black. I sat in the darkness, my heart pounding. But not with fear. With a cold, rising triumph. A had lost. He had been publicly humiliated. Dr. Eris had bought me 1 week. Liam thought he had locked me in a tomb. He had no idea he had just given me a war room. I sat in the darkness. The television was black. But the silence was no longer terrifying. It was an opportunity. Dr. Eris had bought me 1 week. Liam thought I was in a tomb. Breaking down. Becoming the pliable Jane he needed. He was wrong. I was in a war room. Helios, I whispered. My voice hoarse. I am here. Dr. Reed. I need to find my work. I said, I need to find Project Chimera. Accessing Project Chimera files. The AI's calm voice replied, A primary physical data backup is located in your private study. I was confused. I was in the master bedroom. I do not understand. I said, "Where?" A low, hydraulic click sounded to my left. A section of the oak-paneled wall, a section I had believed was solid, slid silently open. It revealed a small, dark room, a hidden office. Liam had never known it existed. I remembered building it. It was my true sanctuary. My bunker. I remembered the arguments. Liam had hated when I worked late. He said I was obsessed. He said I was unhealthy. He accused me of hiding from him, of loving my work more than I loved him. He would beg me to come out, to be normal, to have dinner, to go to parties. He acted like he missed my company. He acted like he just wanted me. He was lying. He did not want me. He wanted the trophy wife. He hated the scientist. He hated the work because the work was my power. It was the one part of my life he could not access, could not control. He tried to make me feel guilty for my own genius. He tried to sabotage my focus. He used my dedication, the very thing that built this penthouse, as proof that I was unstable and cold. He was not trying to save my health. He was trying to drain my power. He can now see what my unhealthy obsession has built. I walked into the dark study. Helios turned on a single, soft desk light, and I saw it. A sleek, black tablet, sitting in a charging cradle. I picked it up. It felt heavy. I turned it on. The screen glowed, illuminating my face. And then, a password prompt. My heart sank. I was locked out. I was a ghost, trapped outside my own mind. Helios. The password. Primary encryption active. Doctor, read. The password is known only to you. I tried my birthday. Access denied. I tried the company's founding date. Access denied. I tried Project Chimera. Access denied. I tried Evelyn Reed. Access denied. The panic was rising again. Cold and sharp. What good was a week? What good was a fortress? If I had lost the key, Liam had won. He had stolen my memory. And with it, he had stolen my last line of defense. I remembered the day I set this encryption. It was after a conference in Berlin. A rival researcher had attempted to steal my laptop. I became obsessed with security. I spent days coding a multi-layer defense. Liam had been furious. He said I was paranoid. He called me his brilliant, walking computer. He said my mind was the only vault I needed. He praised my perfect memory, my intellect. He flattered me. He called me a genius to my face. But he was counting on me forgetting the simple, human things. He praised my perfect memory while he was lying about his affair, counting on me being too distracted by work to notice. And now, the one thing that could save me, my perfect memory, was the one thing he had successfully helped destroy. He had stolen my mind. He was now moments away from stealing the fruits of its labor. He wanted a computer. He will now face the machine I built. I slumped into the desk chair. Defeated, my eyes scanned the small, dark room. It was stark, empty, except for one item. A small, silver picture frame on the desk. I picked it up. It was a picture of a fat, orange cat, wearing a tiny, ridiculous party hat. I did not remember this cat. I did not remember this photo. But I felt a sudden, sharp surge of love. It was a warm, simple, uncomplicated feeling. Helios. I whispered. Who is this? That is Apollo. Your cat. He passed away 2 years ago. I remembered Apollo. Not a memory, but a feeling, a flash, finding him. A half-frozen stray, behind the university lab, nursing him back to health in my tiny dorm room. He was my only companion for years. He was the one thing in my life that was not about ambition, Not about science. He was just warm. Liam hated that cat. He claimed he was allergic. He said the cat was disgusting. He said, "Evelyn, you are a world-class scientist. And you are covered in cat hair. It is unprofessional." He made me feel ashamed of the one simple, loving thing in my life. He dismissed my sentimentality as a flaw. He called it weak and rustic. He wanted me to be a cold, hard, professional machine. Just like him. He did not understand that this weak, sentimental side was the source of my human-first ethos. It was the source of my strength. He is about to learn that my weakness was my strongest encryption. I looked at the picture. The cat. Apollo. The party hat. I looked at the small, engraved date on the bottom of the frame. October 31st. His adoption birthday. It was a stupid, sentimental, human detail. The kind of detail Liam despised. The kind of detail a computer mind would never use as a password. Me fingers moved. End. P. O. L. L. O. 1. 0. 3. 1. Access granted. The screen flashed and opened. It was not just Project Chimera. It was everything. It was my life's work. It was the real financial projections. It was the real clinical trial data. And then I saw the folder. V. Logs. I opened it. I saw a video of myself. It was Evelyn. She was in the lab. Her hair pulled back. She looked tired. But she was vibrant. She was alive. She was speaking to the camera. It was a personal diary. She was explaining her fears. She said that Liam was distracted. She said he seemed angry when she had a breakthrough. She was documenting the gaslighting. She was documenting his lies. I saw a clip. Liam entered the lab. Evelyn quickly minimized the log. He smiled. He kissed her. He told her she was working too hard. He told her he had handled the Syngene offer. He said he had told them no. He said we would never sell. He swore to her. He swore to me. He was lying. He was lying to my face. He was already in negotiations with Bianca. He was telling me we will never sell while he was actively planning the theft. I watched myself on the screen. I watched Evelyn smile. Relieved. I watched her thank him for protecting her. It was the most painful thing I had ever seen. He had used my love, my trust, as his ultimate cover. I scrolled down. I found the real valuation. The one I had hidden from him. I had told him the project was worth maybe $100 million. I had lied. I was in the hidden study. The $5 billion bomb glowing in my hands. I heard them. Liam and Bianca. Their voices were sharp, laced with the acidic panic from Dr. Powett. Eris's public ambush. They were in my living room. They were supposed to be my caretakers. My colleagues. They were nothing but hyenas. Fighting over a kill they had not yet made. Bianca's voice was sharp. We have to redraft the ratification. Liam, we need a new authorization for the in-person vote. We have to assume Eris will block everything. I remembered Bianca. She had been my protégée. I had hired her. I had pulled her from a small, unknown firm because she was hungry. I had mentored her. I had promoted her. I remembered a dinner. Celebrating her promotion to senior counsel. I had toasted her. I had told the partners, Bianca is the future. She is brilliant. And she is loyal. She was not just sleeping with my boyfriend. She was not just a traitor. She was my traitor. I had personally handed her the knife she was now using to stab me in the back, while I was championing her career. She was calculating the value of my company. While I praised her loyalty, she was drafting the legal documents to steal my life's work. She was not just an accomplice. She was my gravest, most personal mistake, and I would correct that mistake. I heard Liam. His voice was a low growl. She is in the bedroom. She is broken. She will sign whatever we put in front of her. I heard the click of the master bedroom lock. The one he had trapped me behind. I heard the door swing open. "Jane," he called out. His voice a sickening imitation of concern. "Jane, we need to talk." He expected to find me on the floor, weeping in the dark. He found an empty room. I heard the sharp, sudden intake of his breath. "Where is she?" Bianca snapped. I spun around. I was standing in the archway of the living room. I had told Helios to unseal the study and unlock the bedroom. I had not hidden. I was waiting. I was holding my black tablet. It was on. The video log of him lying to Evelyn was playing silently on the screen. Their faces were a perfect portrait of terror. They did not see Jane. They saw a ghost. "What is that?" Liam snarled. He was not asking. He was demanding. "What are you doing? Give me that." This was the attack. He expected me to flinch. He expected me to obey. To surrender the tablet. To go back to being the compliant invalid. He saw me as a porcelain doll. Something precious and fragile. I remembered how he had handled me after the accident. He had been so gentle. He had fed me. Brushed my hair. He had told me I was too fragile for the world. He had convinced me I was breakable. He had lied. He was not protecting me. He was managing me. He called me porcelain to convince me I was weak. To gaslight me into needing him. The moment the porcelain doll held something he wanted, his gentleness evaporated. He was not a protector. He was a brute. He lunged for the tablet. He was fast, but I was faster. I stumbled back, feigning the terror he expected. "No, Liam." "Stop," I cried. My voice. The perfect, high-pitched panic of Jane. I stumbled backwards. Towards the large table where Bianca had set up her command center. Her expensive, high-spec laptop was open. The new, illegal ratification agreement was glowing on her screen. My hand, the one not holding the tablet, was holding a glass of water I had taken from the study. As I tripped, my hand flailed. The entire glass of water arced through the air. It hit her keyboard in a perfect, drenching wave. Time stopped. Liam froze mid-lunge. The laptop screen flickered. It hissed. A small wisp of smoke curled from the keyboard. And then it went black. Bianca did not move. She did not breathe. Then, she opened her mouth. And she screamed. It was not a scream of anger. It was a raw, guttural howl of absolute loss. It was the sound of an animal watching its prey. Its life's work. "No, no," she shrieked. She scrambled for the dead laptop. The contract. The real biosyn contract. That was the only copy. Liam stared at her. His face white. I stood there, holding my tablet. My expression, one of shock. Bianca turned on me. Her face twisted. Ugly. Her icy composure shattered. You did this," she screamed, pointing a trembling finger. "You clumsy. Stupid. That draft was worth Bill Ions." She confessed. In helpless, arrogant panic. She confessed everything. She confessed the true valuation. She confessed the existence of an illegal, hidden contract. She had destroyed herself in a single, panicked sentence. Liam looked at Bianca, and then at me. He finally understood. The porcelain doll was not the one who was broken. They were. Bianca's confession, that single, schlicht Wort. Billions hung in the air like poison gas. Liam's face was a mask of cold, white fury. He did not look at Bianca, who was clutching her dead, smoking laptop. He looked at me. He finally saw me. He saw that the clumsy stumble, the accidental spill, was no accident. The Jane Act was gone. He was staring at the architect of his failure. He said nothing. He crossed the room in 2 strides. He did not grab the tablet. He grabbed my arm. He dragged me from the living room, back down the hall. His fingers like steel bands. He did not bother with the smart lock. He shoved me into the master bedroom and slammed the heavy door. I heard the thud of the manual deadbolt. He was not protecting me. He was not caring for me. He was jailing me. I remembered the day I had insisted on these doors. They were custom. Soundproofed. I had told him I needed absolute silence to work. He had called me excessive. He had called me a diva. He said, "Evelyn, this is a home, not a vault." He was right. I had built a vault, and he had just locked me inside it. He thought he was isolating me. He thought he was cutting me off from the world, leaving me to break in the silence. He expected me to panic, to beat on the door, to become the hysterical woman he needed me to be. He was using my own design, my own excessive demands, as his weapon. He was leveraging the very privacy I had paid for to ensure I could not call for help. He was on the other side of that door with his mistress, free to plan his next move, believing I was deaf, blind, and neutralized. He was, as always, arrogant. He was, as always, wrong. He had forgotten about the nanny cam feature he had mocked me for installing. I remembered the argument clearly. "Helpless. Why does the house need microphones?" he had asked. Laughing. "Who are you planning to record?" "Evelyn. The cleaning staff." He had called me paranoid. He had dismissed my security protocols as insane and unhealthy. He had no idea I had built them to protect my research from corporate spies. He had no idea he was the spy. Now, his arrogance was about to become my greatest weapon. I stood in the dark, silent room. My heart was not pounding with fear. It was pounding with a cold, hard rhythm. "Helios," I whispered. My voice was steady. "Activate living room audio. Passive recording. Begin." Their voices flooded the room. They were not whispering. They were arguing. Bianca was frantic. "It does not matter. Liam, the laptop is gone. But the deal is not. We just need her signature on the ratification. We have the in-person meeting. We have 1 week." Liam's voice was a low growl. "She heard you. Bianca, she heard you scream billions. She knows." There was a pause. Then Bianca's voice, stripped of all panic, returned as pure, cold ice. So what she said, "Who are they going to believe us? The loving, devoted fiancé and the loyal company lawyer, who are desperately trying to save this company from a mentally ill woman?" She laughed. "Or are they going to believe the hysterical amnesiac who attacks people with glasses of water? She is a non-entity. Liam, she is a prop. She is just a signature. A prop, a signature, a non-entity." This was the woman I had mentored. This was the woman I had promoted. The one I had called loyal and brilliant. I had given her a career. She was reducing my entire life, my genius, my soul, to a signature. Then I heard the final, chilling words. Liam's voice was quiet. "And after the meeting, she will not just agree to be quiet. She does not have to," Bianca said. Her voice final. "That is what the facility in Zurich is for. We are not just her caretakers. We are her legal guardians. We will have her committed. A long-term, private facility. Excellent care. No visitors. By the time anyone questions it, the company will be sold. And we will be gone. She will just disappear." They were not just stealing my company. They were not just stealing my money. They were planning to bury me. They were going to have me declared insane and lock me away in a foreign country, to live out my days as a drugged vacant shell, all so they could steal my work. I listened. I let Helios record every single damning criminal word, the Jane persona, the lost, frightened woman I had been. Did not shatter. She did not cry. She evaporated. She burned away like mist in a cold, hard dawn. And the woman left standing in the dark was not Jane. It was Dr. Evelyn Reed. And I knew, with an icy, absolute certainty, what I had to do. They had a meeting in 1 week. They were planning to bring me as their prop. They had no idea I was coming as their judge, their jury, and their executioner. The week was a blur of calculated, agonizing performance. Liam had unlocked my door. He had returned to his role as the doting, concerned fiancé. He brought me food. He sat with me. He spoke in soft, soothing tones about our future, about how we would get through this. And I played my part. I was the broken Jane. I was quiet. I was vacant. I flinched when he touched me. I cried when he raised his voice. I let him believe his prison had worked. I let him believe he had shattered my mind. I remembered the promise I had made to myself when I first started my company. I would never be weak. I would never let anyone handle me. I had built my empire on the strength of my own mind. And now, I was sacrificing my last shred of dignity. I was pretending to be the very thing he accused me of being: a fragile, incompetent, hysterical woman. I let him see me as a victim. I let him believe I was his. He was a fool. He was so blinded by his own arrogance, so convinced of my weakness, that he never saw the truth. While he was caring for me, I was studying. While he was explaining the simple paperwork, I was memorizing the $5 billion valuation on my tablet. While he was soothing me, I was downloading the encrypted audio file from Helios. He was not my caretaker. He was my prey. He thought he was leading a lamb to the slaughter. He had no idea he was walking a tiger into a cage. The day of the meeting arrived. He picked out a dress for me. It was white. It was simple. It was the dress of a patient, of an invalid. He brushed my hair. He told me I looked beautiful. He told me to just be quiet. He said, "Let me do all the talking. Honey, it will all be over soon." He expected me to be his silent, beautiful prop. He needed the board to see a ghost. We walked into the boardroom. He held my arm, his grip just a little too tight. A silent warning. Every eye turned to me. I saw the faces of my board. I saw Dr. Eris, his face, a mask of stone. I saw the others. I saw their pity. It was a suffocating, humiliating thing. They looked at me. Their founder. Their CEO. The woman who had made them all wealthy. As if I were a child. They saw the vacant eyes. They saw the simple white dress. They saw the prop Liam had so carefully constructed. Liam led me to a chair at the side of the room. Not at the head of the table. That was his chair now. He stood up. He began his presentation. He was brilliant. He was charming. He was a masterful liar. He spoke of my tragic decline. He spoke of his heavy heart. He spoke of the predatory nature of the market. And how, without my guiding genius, the company was vulnerable. He said Project Chimera had hit an insurmountable wall in its research. He was lying about my science. He was standing in my boardroom, lying to my people about my work. He was using my stolen memory as proof that my work was dead. He presented the SynGen offer. He said $50 million was a lifeline. He said Dr. Croft was doing us a favor, buying this distressed asset out of respect for my past. He called my legacy a distressed asset. He called a $5 billion miracle, cure a favor. He was leveraging his own affair, his own backroom deal, to paint himself as the savior. He was using the real money, the billions, to pay off Bianca and secure his escape, while using the fake money, the $50 million, to convince the board they were lucky. He was a vulture, picking at a corpse he had declared dead too soon. He finished his presentation. The room was silent, heavy with pity. He had them. He had sold them the tragedy. And they had bought it completely. It is a painful necessity, Liam said, his voice thick with fake emotion. We must vote. We must vote to ratify this sale, and to appoint me as interim CEO to finalize the transfer. For Evelyn. He called for the vote. The board members looked at me. One last time. With their sad, pitiful eyes, they were ready to sign. They were ready to give him my company. Wait. The voice cut through the silence like a surgeon's blade. It was Dr. Eris. He stood up. Liam's practiced mask of concern tightened. Dr. Eris. Liam said, his voice full of warning. We have been over this. This is an in-person quorum. Everything is legal. I do not doubt the quorum. Dr. Aris said, his eyes scanning the board. I doubt the presentation. As per Article 4, Section 1 of the Corporate Bylaws, the founder and CEO must be given the floor to speak before any vote of dissolution or sale. The air in the room changed. Liam's face went pale. She is not well. Eris, you are tormenting her. She is not capable. She is present. Eris snapped, his voice booming in the room. And the bylaws, which you agreed to, are absolute. We cannot vote until the CEO has been given the chance to speak. The spotlight was immediate. Every eye in the room, every investor, every board member, swung away from Liam. They swung to me. The silent prop in the white dress. Liam was trapped. He could not, in front of everyone, physically silence me. He could not claim I was incapable of speaking when I was sitting right there. His entire plan rested on me being a silent, tragic figure. And Dr. Eris had just handed me the microphone. Liam was seething. I could see the panic in his eyes. He thought he had one last move. He leaned down, his face close to mine, his voice a low, vicious whisper that only I could hear, though his smile was for the board. Go ahead. Jane. He hissed. Tell them you agree. Tell them you just want this to be over. Say one word, and I will take you home. He had just made his final, fatal mistake. He had given me permission. He had given me the floor. He expected Jane to whimper. He had no idea Dr. Blinks from Enner, Evelyn Reed, was about to speak. All eyes were on me. The silence in the boardroom was a living, breathing thing. Liam was smiling his wide, false smile, his eyes like ice, daring me to defy him. He had me. He had me in front of the entire board. He expected Jane. He expected a whimper. He expected a nod. He expected, I agree. I just want to go home. But he had forgotten who I was. I had forgotten who I was. Until now, I remembered my very first breakthrough, not Project Chimera, but my doctoral thesis. I was 24. I had spent 4 days straight in the lab. No sleep. Living on vending machine, coffee, and sheer adrenaline. I was chasing an idea everyone said was impossible. Liam, my new, ambitious boyfriend, had come to find me. He said I was killing myself. He said I was obsessed. He said, Evelyn, come home. It is just work. He was wrong. It was not just work. It was my soul. I had sacrificed my health, my youth, my entire life to the pursuit of the impossible. I had built this company from a single sound, sleepless night, and now, this man, the man who told me to come home, was standing at the head of my table, claiming my obsession had hit an insurmountable wall. He was not just stealing my company, he was stealing my past. He was rewriting my history to fit his narrative. He was painting my greatest strengths as my fatal flaws. He was using the very sacrifices I had made for my work as proof that I was unstable, that I was broken. He had dismissed my sleepless nights then, and he was using them as a weapon now. He did not see a scientist. He saw a paycheck, and he had just given me the floor. I turned my head. I did not look at Liam. I did not look at Dr. Eris. I looked at the massive projector screen at the end of the room. It displayed Liam's final, damning slide, the The Singen proposal a responsible path forward. I stood up. The movement was slow. It was deliberate. The entire room flinched. Liam's smile did not just freeze. It evaporated. "Jane," he whispered, his voice suddenly uncertain. The prop was off its mark. I did not answer. I pointed one steady finger at the projector screen. My voice came out. It was not the high, reedy voice of Jane. It was not a whisper. It was cold. It was clear. It was the voice of a CEO. "That proposal," I said, "is flawed." The shock in the room was a physical thing. It was a drop in pressure. Liam recoiled as if I had struck him. He opened his mouth, but no sound came out. I remembered the day I hired Dr. Croft at Sungen. He did not know it. But I had. He had been a brilliant postdoc with no funding. I had anonymously endowed the grant that built his first lab. I did it because I believed in competition. I believed in science. I had created my own rival because I knew it would make us both stronger. I had funded the very predator Liam was now selling my company to. Liam, who had always called me soft and naive, was now bowing to the very man I had secretly built. He thought he was a shark. He was a minnow, swimming in an ocean I had designed, and he was now trying to sell that ocean for a bucket of sand. It is not just flawed. I continued, my voice stronger now. It is amateur. I looked at the slide. I looked at the numbers. They were his numbers. Bianca's numbers. The $50 million lifeline. Your Q3 analysis, I said, my words cutting through the silence. Failed to account for synaptic drift in the control group. You are projecting a stabilization failure that does not exist. I pointed to another line. And your valuation, $50 million. I almost laughed. You are citing the failure of the protein folding model. The model I solved. I remembered the night I solved it. It was the insurmountable wall Liam had mentioned. I had been stuck for a month. Liam had been supportive. He rubbed my shoulders. He brought me wine. He told me, "It is okay. Honey, you cannot solve everything." He had been so reassuring. He had been so comforting in my failure. He had not been comforting me. He had been rooting for me to fail. He had wanted the insurmountable wall to be real. He had wanted me to be a genius. But a flawed genius. A genius he could manage. The moment I solved it, the moment I had the breakthrough, that was when he started pulling away. That was when Bianca started appearing. He did not want me to succeed. He wanted me to be almost successful, so he could take the last step and claim the victory. He had been standing in my corner, praying for me to lose. I turned from the screen. I looked, for the first time, directly at Liam. He was white. He was a statue of pure, frozen panic. The board was staring at me, their pity replaced with a stunned, dawning awe. They were not looking at Jane. They were looking at Dr. Evelyn Reed, and I was not finished. Liam's face shattered. The mask of the caring fiancé, the facade of the competent leader. All of it cracked and fell away, revealing the raw, white-hot panic underneath. He had one move left. He could not fight me on science. He could not fight me on logic, so he lunged for the last weapon he had, my sanity. He did not lunge at me. He lunged toward the boardroom door. His arms spread wide in a performance of sheer, paternalistic terror. "Security," he roared, his voice cracking with manufactured fear. "Get in here now." He spun to face the stunned, silent board. "I am so sorry. I am so sorry. Everyone. She is having an episode. It is the stress. She is hysterical. She does not know what she is saying." The two security guards, who had been waiting outside, burst into the room. They saw exactly what Liam wanted them to see. They saw a man in a $5,000 suit, his face a mask of tragic concern. They saw a boardroom of shocked investors, and they saw a woman in a simple white dress, agitated and unstable. They saw the narrative. He expected them to grab me. He expected me to scream, to fight, to cry. He expected me to prove for him that I was the madwoman he claimed I was. This was his checkmate. I did not look at the guards. I did not even look at Liam. My entire world, my entire consciousness, was focused on the projector screen. I was staring at the title slide he had left up, the title he had authored, Project Chimera. I remembered the night he invented that name. I had just finalized the primary stabilization sequence. I was exhausted, crying with joy. I told him I wanted to call the project Helios. After the dawn, after the light. I wanted to name my miracle after the hope it would bring. Liam had laughed. He had his arms around me. He told me it was soft. He told me it was sentimental. He said, "No one buys soft. Evelyn, they buy strong." He suggested Chimera, a monster of mismatched parts. He said it was aggressive. He said it was marketable. I was tired. I was in love. I let him. A talisman. Brand, my soul. I had sacrificed my own soft, human-first ethos to make him happy. He had not been helping. He had been conquering. He had been erasing my identity. Piece by piece. Long before the accident. He had dismissed my sentiment then. And he was using it to declare me hysterical now. That single memory, that single compromise, was a key. It did not unlock a door. It detonated one. The name Chimera was the final trigger. The dam of my amnesia did not crack. It disintegrated. I remembered the hospital. I remembered the white lights. I remembered his face. The first one I saw, swimming out of the fog. He had held my hand. He had cried. He had whispered, "Do not worry. Evelyn, I will be your memory. I will take care of everything." He had sworn to protect me. He had used my moment of ultimate, terrifying vulnerability, a mind wiped blank, as his ultimate, calculating opportunity. While I was terrified, he was scheming. While I was relearning my own name, he was liquidating my life. I remembered the affair, the perfume, the scarf, the lies. I remembered him calling me paranoid and stressed. I remembered him using my dedication to the lab as a gaslighting tool, a way to make me feel guilty, a way to make me feel crazy for noticing his betrayals. He had not just been cheating. He had been training me to doubt my own mind. Long before the accident gave him the perfect excuse. I remembered the tablet, the cat, Apollo, the password, the $5 billion valuation. I remembered the audio file, a long-term, private facility, no visitors. She will just disappear. The fog of Jane did not lift. It was incinerated. It was burned away by the white-hot, focused rage of Dr. Evelyn Reed. I turned my head. I moved my eyes from the screen. From the past, I looked at Liam. He was standing by the door, his hand outstretched, directing the security guards, who were now cautiously, nervously, approaching me. "Sir, maybe we should just..." one of them began. I spoke. My voice was not cold. It was dead. It was the sound of a vault door sliding shut. That is not what I named it. The room stopped. The air crystallized. The security guards froze, their hands half raised. Liam's head snapped toward me, his jaw slack. The caring mask was gone, replaced by the naked terror of a man who had just seen a ghost. I called it Helios. I said, my voice was clear. It did not waver. After the dawn, you called it Chimera, because you, Mr. Liam, are a monster. Liam recoiled. She is. He sputtered. Hysterical, I supplied. I took on a step toward him. The guards tensed. That is your word. Is it not hysterical? Emotional. Unstable. You used it when I questioned you about Bianca. You used it when I worked 72 hours straight to save this company. And you are using it now. Because you are a terrified little boy who has just been caught. I walked past the table. I walked directly toward the head of the table. My chair. Liam was trapped between me and the guards. I looked at Dr. Lane. Eris. His eyes were wide. Not with shock, but with a fierce, brilliant, dawning joy. He knew. He was seeing the woman he had mentored. I looked at the board members. Their pity was gone. Their confusion was gone. They were staring at me. Their founder. Their leader. Resurrected. I looked back at Liam. He was shaking. My memory has returned. Mr. Liam. I announced. My voice filled the room. I am Dr. Evelyn Reed. I am the founder of this company. I am the CEO. I pointed one steady finger at his face. And you, I said, are fired. You are fired. The words hung in the air. Clean and absolute. Liam's mouth was open. The security guards were frozen. Dr. Eris was watching. In his face a mask of brilliant, terrible joy. Then, Liam laughed. It was not a laugh. It was a dry, ugly, aching sound. It was the sound of pure, unadulterated panic. It spun around, not to me, but to the board. His arms spread wide, playing the martyr one last time. You see, he shouted, his voice cracking. You see what you have done. Eris, this is the proof. She is delusional. She is having a psychotic break. He pointed at me. His hand was shaking. This is a tantrum. You cannot possibly take this seriously. She is not the CEO. She is a sick woman. And she is proving it. Security. Please. He begged. His voice dropping into a mask of false compassion. Gently. Now, please. Escort Dr. Reed back to the car. She needs rest. This was his attack. He was using my declaration of power as his final doubt. Irrefutable proof of my insanity. I remembered the hospital. I remembered the genuine, soul-crushing terror of my amnesia. The nights I woke up screaming. Soaked in sweat. Trapped in a mind that was not my own. He had held me. He had rocked me. He had promised me. I am your anchor. Evelyn, I will not let you drift. Just hold on to me. He was not my anchor. He was the ocean. Trying to drown me. He had witnessed my genuine trauma. My medical vulnerability. And he was now in this boardroom. Mimicking it. He was performing a twisted, grotesque pantomime of my real pain to convince them I was unstable. He was using my deepest, most private hell as a public relations strategy. He had prayed for me to be sick. And now that I was finally, terrifyingly well, he was using my past sickness as his only remaining weapon. The board was wavering. I saw it. They were businessmen. Not doctors. They were investors. They looked at Liam, the caring fiancé. They looked at me, the hysterical woman. They were terrified of a scandal. They were terrified of me. Liam saw their hesitation. He nodded sadly to the guards. Please. Now. Save me, I asked. My voice was quiet. The room, which had been buzzing with his performance, fell utterly silent. You want to save me? Liam. I walked to the head of the table. I placed my small, black phone, the one he had tried to take from me, onto the central conference hub. You are right about one thing, I said, my voice calm. The board deserves the truth. I looked at Bianca. She was sitting by the wall, trying to make herself invisible. She was no longer a viper. She was a mouse. She was paper white. I remembered her. I remembered fighting for her. I remembered a senior partner who wanted to fire her for a mistake on a filing. I had staked my own reputation. I had gone to the partner and said, "She is loyal. She is brilliant. You fire her, and I will take my Project Chimera to a different firm." I had saved her career. She had cried. She had thanked me. She had sworn, "I will be loyal to you for life." Evelyn. She had not just been sleeping with my fiancé. She had not just been drafting the documents to steal my company. She had been planning to have me buried alive in a Zurich facility. She was repaying my loyalty with a living tomb. "This is not a he said," she said. I continued, my voice echoing in the silent room. "I am a scientist. I do not make accusations without data." I looked at Bianca. "You and Liam both mocked my paranoid obsession with home security. You particularly hated my AI. Helios, you did not like that I had installed microphones." I turned to the board. "Helios has a wonderful security feature. It passively records all non-resident voices. Bianca, you are a non-resident." Liam's eyes widened. He knew. "Evelyn, do not." I pressed play. "Helios," I commanded, my voice clear. "Play audio, file 9B. I believe I have titled it, 'The Zurich Plan.'" The speakers hissed, and then their voices filled the room. Liam's voice. "And after the meeting, she will not just agree to be quiet." Bianca's voice. "Cold and final. She does not have to. That is what the facility in Zurich is for. We will have her committed. A long-term, private facility, excellent care, no visitors. She will just disappear." The recording clicked off. The silence that followed was absolute. It was the sound of judgment. Liam was not pale. He was gray. The board members were staring. Their faces a mask of pure, unadulterated horror. They were not looking at an unstable woman. They were looking at two criminals. Then, a sound. A chair scraped. Bianca, the loyal protégée, the ice-cold lawyer, leaped to her feet. Her composure was not just broken. It was annihilated. She was sobbing. "Araf. Ugly. Animal sound." She pointed one. Trembling. Desperate a finger at Liam. "He made me do it," she shrieked. The sound echoing off the glass walls. "He lied to me. He told me she was sick. He planned it all. I want immunity. I will testify. He made me." Liam did not even look at her. He was staring at me. His partner. His mistress. His accomplice. His alibi. Had just hammered the final nail into his coffin. He was completely and totally alone. Bianca's shriek echoed in the silent, horrified room. Her confession, her immediate "Desperate betrayal," had sealed his fate. Liam did not even look at her. He was staring at me, his face a gray, waxy mask of a man who had just seen his entire future disintegrate. He was cornered. He was exposed. He was finished. And then, he did something I did not expect. He squared his shoulders. His panic did not recede. But it was joined by a final, desperate surge of arrogance. He made one last, desperate attack. He was not trying to save his freedom. He was trying to save his money. "You cannot fire me," he snarled. His voice a low, vicious rasp. He was not talking to me. He was talking to the board. "You think I am the villain?" he spat, jabbing a finger toward me. She is. She is a sentimental fool who has been running this company into the ground. That. Hysterics." He motioned to my phone. "That is a distraction. The only thing that matters. The only thing saving this company is the Syngene deal. Without that sale, you are all bankrupt. You fire me, and you lose everything." This was his final, pathetic gamble. He believed the company needed him. He believed the asset was tied to the sale. He believed that $50 million, his $50 million lie, was the only thing holding these investors in their chairs. He was still, after all this, trying to sell my legacy. I remembered the day we incorporated Biosyn. It was just a name on a piece of paper. He had begged me, to list him as a co-founder. He said it was better for investors. He said it looked stronger. He told me, "Evelyn, this is our company, our future. We are partners in everything." I remembered smiling. I remembered telling him, "No, you will be the COO, the Chief Operating Officer. That is a vital, important rôle." He had pooted. He had accused me of not trusting him. I had told him he was being sentimental. I had used his own words against him. He had eventually agreed, thinking COO was the next best thing. He had no idea what I had really done. While he was celebrating his partnership, I was in a lawyer's office, creating a firewall. He thought I was a naive scientist. He did not know I was a cautious one. He was not my partner. He was not my co-founder. He was just my first employee, and I had been protecting my life's work from him, and everyone like him, from the very first day. "You are right, Mr. Liam," I said. My voice was quiet, conversational. The entire room leaned in. "The Syngene deal is very important." I looked past Liam. To the back of the room, a man I recognized. Dr. Croft Superior, the head of acquisitions for Syngene, was standing there, his face like stone. He had been a silent witness to this entire thing. "But you seem to be confused," I continued. "You cannot be fired." "That is true. A person must be employed to be fired." I let that hang in the air. "But you were never employed by me. You were employed by the board of Biosyn, a board that—" "I believe," I said, glancing at Dr. Eris, who smiled, "has just heard grounds for immediate criminal termination." Liam's face twitched. The company is the asset. You cannot. The patent." "Ah," I said. "The patent. Project Chimera." I shook my head. "No, Helios. This was the final move. This was the trap I had set before I even knew he was an enemy. You see, you have all been operating under a misapprehension. One I am here to correct." I looked at the Syngene executive. "Mr. Liam has been trying to sell you something. He has been trying to sell you a company called Biosyn. He told you it was a distressed asset. He told you it was worth $50 million. I laughed. It was not a Jane laugh. It was a cold, hard CEO laugh. "Mr. Liam, you have been trying to sell a company that owns nothing." The silence was absolute. "Biosyn, the corporate entity, is a shell," I explained, my voice echoing. "It is a management company. It owns the leases. It owns the desks. It owns the computers." I paused. "It does not own Helios's. It does not own the patent. It never did." I remembered Liam complaining about the legal fees. "Why are we paying so much for this private trust?" "Evelyn, it is a waste of money. Just put the patent in the company's name. It is cheaper." He had been so insistent. He was not trying to save money. He was trying to make the asset easier to steal. I looked at him. His face, a perfect, slack-jawed portrait of dawning horror. "The patent," I announced to the room. "My $5 billion patent is held in an ironclad private trust, a trust that I am the sole benefactor and controller of. Trusted. You were not trying to sell my company, Liam. You were trying to sell an empty box." Liam made a small, choking sound. The Syngene executive at the back of the room did not. He was a shark, and he smelled blood. He stepped forward. Doctor, read, he said, his voice a low growl. Are you telling me that we have been in negotiations for 6 months? Wasting hundreds of man-hours. On an asset this, Fraud, never had the right to sell. I just nodded. The executive turned to Liam. His face was not angry. It was murderous. The Singen offer is, of course, retracted. He snapped. And you, he said, pointing at Liam. You will be hearing from our legal department. We will be suing you. Personally. For fraud. For damages. And for discovery costs. You will be ruined. Liam did not move. He was a statue. He had lost his job. He had lost his mistress. He had lost his freedom. And now, in a final, poetic stroke of justice, he had lost the very money he had murdered his life for. He was utterly and completely bankrupt. The room was a tomb. Bianca was sobbing. A collapsed, broken heap on the expensive carpet. The Singen executive was on his phone. His voice sharp and precise. I want a fraud suit filed within the hour. And I want his assets frozen. All of them. And Liam. He was a gray, hollowed-out statue. A had lost. He had lost his job. He had lost his mistress. He had lost his freedom. And in my final, brutal reveal, he had lost his money. The fraud he had constructed was now a lawsuit that would strip him of every penny he had ever made. Or ever hoped to make. He was ruined. I remembered him. Standing in this very room. Laughing. He had been mocking me for buying a safe index fund, instead of aggressively investing in high-risk tech ventures. He called me timid. He called me old-fashioned. He said, You have to be a wolf. Evelyn, you are acting like a sheep. He was not a wolf. He was not even a sheep. He was a rat. And I had just burned his nest. He had spent his entire life leveraging my genius, my money, my stability, so he could play the part of the aggressive alpha male. He had used my financial security as his personal playground. Now, faced with the consequences of his own aggressive actions, he did not fight. He did not argue. He did not negotiate. He bolted. It was a primal, disperate, animalistic act. He shoved his chair back so hard it crashed against the wall. He did not look at me. He did not look at Bianca. He sprinted for the boardroom door. He expected to burst out. He expected to run down the hall, into the elevator, and disappear onto the streets of New York. He expected to escape. He thought he could just run from the destruction he had caused. He was a coward. He was the strong man who had called me fragile. He was the protector who had called me weak. And in his final moment, his only instinct was to flee. I remembered Dr. Eris. I remembered him. Years ago. Warning me about Liam. He had pulled me aside after a funding dinner. He said, Be careful. Evelyn, men like that, they are drawn to your light. But they resent it. They want to own it. Not share it. I had been angry. I had defended Liam. I had told Eris he was judgmental. I had accused my oldest, truest friend of being jealous. I had sacrificed my mentor's trust for a liar. And now, in this final moment, the liar was running, and my mentor had been 3 steps ahead. Liam hit the silver crash bar on the heavy glass door. He threw his entire body weight against it. The door swung open. He did not burst into an empty hallway. He collided. Hard. With 2 massive, solid bodies. It was the 2 security guards. The same 2 guards Liam had called in to drag me away. They were not approaching. They were waiting. They had been standing there. On Eris's orders. For the entire meeting. They did not just stop him. They caught him. He struggled. A wild, pathetic, writhing, "Get off me!" he screamed. his voice a high, thin, childish wail. Let me go. The guards did not strain. They simply held him. They lifted him off his feet, his expensive Italian leather shoes kicking uselessly in the air. Doctor. Eris stepped forward. He walked past me. He looked at Liam. His face not angry, but filled with a cold, righteous satisfaction. Mr. Liam, Audie said, his voice clear and final. You are being detained for conspiracy to commit corporate fraud, embezzlement, and attempted kidnapping. Kidnapping. The word hit me. A long-term, private facility. No visitors. She will just disappear. I remembered the accident. I remembered the white fog. I remembered the sheer, soul-crushing terror of a blank mind. I remembered waking up in the hospital, and his face was the first I saw. He was my anchor. He was my only safety. He had held my hand, and I had clung to him. This stranger who was my entire world. He had not been my anchor. He was the architect of my pain. He had not just used my amnesia. He had curated it. He had maintained it. He had used my genuine medical trauma, my deepest point of vulnerability, as his primary, calculated weapon. He had not been holding my hand to save me. He had been holding me down. He had been jailing me in my own mind. Long before he used the deadbolt on my bedroom door. The click of the handcuffs locking around Liam's wrists was the loudest sound I had ever heard. It was the sound of my vault closing. It was the sound of Helios winning. It was the sound of justice. The guards began to drag him out. Bianca was next, pulled to her feet, sobbing. I want my lawyer. I want immunity. They were a matched set of failures. As Liam was pulled past me, he stopped. He fought against the guards just enough to turn his head. His face was no longer gray. It was twisted. Purple. A mask of pure, impotent, childish hatred. He was not a wolf. He was not a rat. He was just a pathetic, spoiled boy who had been caught. You, he whispered. His voice choked with venom. You, bitch. Hysterical, obsessed, paranoid, soft, weak, broken, Jane. He had spent years trying to define me. He had tried to sand down my edges, to make me soft, to make me manageable. He had tried to break me. He had failed. I looked at him. I did not flinch. I did not raise my voice. I just gave him one. Final, cold, clinical smile. Goodbye. Mr. Liam. He was dragged out of the room. The door thudded shut. Silence. The boardroom was still. The board members were staring at me. Their faces a mixture of awe, terror, and profound respect. Doctor. Eris turned to me, his eyes shining. Evelyn. He began. I held up a hand. I was not finished. I walked to the head of the table. I walked to my chair. I sat down. Then, I turned my attention to the Syngene executive, who was still standing at the back of the room, watching me. My apologies for the profanous. Theatricals, I said, my voice crisp. Now, shall we discuss the real value of Helios's? My price is $10 billion. Not a penny less.